This is a PlayStation 3 premium refurbished certified system from Gamestop. Now, we did the 360 video that you guys really seem to like, and I figured, well, let's take a look at the PS3 because a lot of you were saying in the comments, what's a Gamestop refurbished PlayStation 3 look like if that's what their 360 looks like? Well, I will say the PS3 had less issues than the 360 and had a lot less home remedies. We'll say that, you know, things like screws and washers and all kinds of stuff. The PlayStation 3 was a bit more reliable, and I went and I picked this one up. It is an older, quote-unquote, large model, 80 gigabyte 2 USB system. And I figured, well, if I get a GameStop refurbished, maybe I'll get lucky and it's just the disk drive. If it's just the disk drive, we can still go down to the motherboard and I can show you some of the stuff with the system and everything. And I guess if it is the disk drive, we can look at that too. But let's see what we have here with the PlayStation 3 system. So right away, open it up. I did get AV cables with it because, I don't know, I guess they still give out AV cables. HDMI cables are like a dime a dozen, but I guess that's what it came with, and that might have been just what it, you know, got when it was traded in. USB, actually a fairly long USB cable for the controller. So far, so good there. A controller that doesn't feel terrible. However, it doesn't have any like wording up here. I don't know if it's like rubbed off or something because it does have the PlayStation symbol on the home button there. No charge. By the way, this system apparently was like under a bunch of stuff in the back, like the box was. So there's a good chance this was sitting back there for a long, long time. I mean, who goes there and specifically asks for a refurbished PS3 anymore? Power cable. So yes, all the cables and everything were inside. Good stuff. And let's take our system out that looks kind of run down. I don't know if they were trying to like, it might be kind of hard to see. It almost looks like Brillo pad was like taken to it. This is supposed to be shiny on top and it's not. Let's see. Let's get this guy out here. Oh look, it also comes with some instructions. Oh, that's kind of neat. Kind of like the 360 that we got. They did say they don't really sell a lot of these refurbished PS3 systems at all. They sell more of the refurbished 366 systems, and keep in mind they are doing a sale now with those systems, the 360, where it's like a rebate. You get it for basically free after you do the rebate. So this is our system. This is the 80 gigabyte large model, 2 USB on the front there, and it does have the old GameStop warranty sticker right there. 80 gigabyte L01. L01 is the model, so that means that this should say right here, CECH L01. That is a model that was after, let's see, they went to the fat model, the large model at CECH G01, then it went to H01, and I believe there was also a K model. Now we're at L, and I think they finished up with P01. So they have a lot of models. They redid this thing a lot, and the boards inside are generally fairly different. So we do have to get that little warranty sticker off the side to get started. So they've definitely been in here. That's good. So we actually can take a look at their job that they did here. So we'll kick that open. And like I said, hopefully it's just the disk drive. That's the hope, right? Because then this system is actually a good system to buy, and then I guess I can kind of recommend their refurbished PlayStation 3 at that point, right? Again, though, the larger models are more of a pain to work with compared to the slim models because they do fail more. Oh, good. They even have the right screw in there. Okay, so we're off to a good start, guys. This is a good start so far. They have everything so far looks correct. They have the right torque screw in here. They had the rubber stopper. They have their own warranty sticker on it. So far, so good. So you get that screw out. This just pops right open there. That comes off. And now we can start to take a look. By the way, if you open a PS3, this actually makes a good little spot for your screws. We actually have all of our Phillips head screws around here, so we can just start unscrewing them. We can get the lid off, and then we can maybe make a determination if it is anything other than the disk drive. Because if I see the disk drive and it looks all right, then it might be board related, and that'll be fun. Although this is an L01, we didn't see a ton of we saw some. Definitely not as many as like the older models. Like the A01 is the 60 gigabyte model that was PS2 and PS1 backwards compatible. This one will play PS1 games, but it won't play PS2 games. So you can drop your PlayStation 1 game in here and it'll work fine. Actually, any PS3 will play PS1 games. So if you have a PS3 sitting around and you want to play a PS1 disc, you can actually pop it in and it'll play it fine. Some people don't actually know that. So there you go. There's a little tab up here you got to press when you got to open it. Kicks right open. Let's see. Okay, so... So this is interesting. There's actually some rust right here on the casing for the board. So that's just straight up rust. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's rust. All right, so the inside is rusted, so good stuff there. Off to a great start. Let's see, let's just double check to make sure they put all the screws in correctly. Yeah, all right, good, all right, very good. All the screws are actually in over here. I have seen rust in a PS3 before. It's in the first time I've seen it, but it's not often, like at all. It's not a normal thing to see rust in a PlayStation 3 system. On this model, the PS3's power supply, which is this black section here, has to come off first because the ribbon cable from this drive actually goes underneath of it. So this is going to come off after you get the screws out, which there's some smaller ones back here as well. Once you get the screws off, it just is pulled up and out. And that's just because of some power plugs that are actually underneath. And then we should be able to see the board. I'm looking at the drive, and once we flip it over, we should at least be able to tell because there's usually a sticker that tells us if someone's been in there. If I ever saw this and the board seemed okay, I would still change this plate out just because there's rust and it's right next to where the power plugs are. And that's usually concerning because that means I assume there's moisture or something happening at some point. Because these are our plugs here and you can kind of see the rust gathering around it. A little concerning. I mean, this plate doesn't cost much, and sometimes, because if you've worked on so many PS3s, they become scrap at some point where you have some that are unfixable. I would have these plates all over the place because, you know, you run into some that are just, they're just not fixable. Let's pop this up here. This is rusted as well. Interesting. Wow, it's just rust all... Wow, that's amazing. I'm trying to see if there's any indication they've even worked on this thing. Let's go down to the board, because let's go down to the board anyway. But so far, they've at least put the screws all in the right spots, so you wouldn't really be able to tell anyway. But let's get down to the board. So to get there, we have all types of screws to take out. All Phillips head, though, thankfully. Nothing crazy. And I actually need to take this hard drive out as well, which I probably should have done before we even got in here, because they put stickers over everything just to make it difficult on me. Okay, so I can see a little more here, and I can catch it in the camera. So the reason there's rust is because something was actually spilled into the system. You can actually see it. Can you see this right here? I can see it on the viewfinder. Do you see? That is indication that something was spilled through the top vents. And of course that makes sense, because if you have it and it's vertical and it's sitting like this, it's very easy for something to spill on top of this. I've seen it before. This isn't new. Something was spilled in. You can see it came in through here at the top, spilled in down here, rested here actually. And you know what? Let's turn this thing, let's make sure this thing works. I haven't even tried to turn it on, and now I'm like thinking about it, because we don't have to do much to turn it on. I have to just see if there's actually a green light on this thing. Okay, so it's plugged in. We should see a red light. Right there, there you go, red light. And it should just turn on to green, right? That should be fun. Let's see. Okay, so it does turn on, which is good news. I don't have the disk drive in, so I'm not going much further than that. I just want to make sure it wasn't like a yellow light or something, but obvious liquid damage here, and I'm wondering if they had to work on the board because it did have liquid damage at some point and they cleaned it. But at least so far, it does turn on, it goes in the standby and everything, so it works. Bunch of screws around the outside. This is technically called an L01, and we would kind of joke about it because, well, I believe even the ones after this, like the P01 was the same way, because it kind of makes an L shape for the motherboard, because this is part of it. This is like all one board, and just made that L shape. So I don't know if they changed the board because of that. I doubt it. I doubt they even came up with the idea of L01 because that was like next in line. But it was always interesting. Whenever I saw that model number come in, I knew what I was dealing with because these are a pain to put on a preheater because of the weird shape of it. And especially if we had to reflow or reball the GPU, which would happen. It's really annoying to put these on the jig for the preheater. Almost have it all up. These clamps here are very similar in the idea of the X clamps. However, the PlayStation 3's motherboard is thicker, and Sony did a better job bracing this board overall to avoid board issues. The problem was the board, or the system itself, pulled a lot of power, especially early on, and the system itself would just cook. Like, it would get so hot in this system. And those A01 boards, those 60 gigabyte systems, they're all like ticking time bombs at this point. So if you have one, you might want to look up ways to do maintenance. You can change out the power supply with a cooler one. That is a thing. Overall cleaning inside of it, if you can get to just the top off, you can get any of the dust bunnies out because you just can't get to them otherwise. Even with those vents there, it's very difficult to do. You don't have to take any screws out. You just get to the point where you can open up the top and you can get to those dust bunnies. I would do that as soon as possible on an A01. A B01 is also something you should look at. An E01, those are all ones that play PS2 games, but they're all very old as well. This is all up, and man, this stuff. Okay. Well, we're off to a good start with the board exposed. So we have corrosion on the motherboard here as well. That's very easy to see. It's this green powder here. That usually happens from a reaction of liquid on the motherboard and drying. Yeah, so here's what definitely happened. Liquid hit the board. You can actually see it here as well. That is some dust and traces of liquid. And it all gathers around this power plug, and it does not look good around that power plug. I'm gonna get you a close-up picture of this because it's that's something else. Yeah, that's quite a bit. It's right around that power plug. You can see the fuse is also covered. There are MOSFETs that are also covered with corrosion. Corrosion generally will like short things out, and it's a real pain. This is fairly well stuck in there actually. Wow, okay. So the system is kind of stuck right now in the, wait, there we go. This will usually happen if compound is used heavily. Actually, that might be the, no, I guess not. That's not the, yeah, no, that's not from Sony. It's too wet. The actual compound is, and this is, okay, yeah, so so we can now kind of gauge the path of the liquid and how this happened. So it came in through here when it's standing up, the liquid comes down and around, goes through here, right, where we can kind of see the corrosion, and we can also see where it gathered there as well. Goes to the other side of it because there's a liquid. That's where it dried up, and maybe even kind of came out the bottom here. Yes, so quite a bit actually went through this system. I'm actually surprised that it still works even a little bit. And because of the corrosion and kind of where the liquid damage was, it could technically go out at some point, but it still works. This is very easy to actually clean up, and I'm surprised they did not, because this was a refurbishment and had their sticker still on it. It wasn't a trade back in or anything. They opened it up. This is different compound. That compound's different. So I'm not really sure how all this went down, how they didn't just clean this off. It's not, if you see this and it still works, it's kind of a miracle, but you can clean it with a toothbrush and some 91% isopropyl alcohol. Very, very quick and easy, and then let it dry for hours. You can technically fix this pretty easily, but still, who knows how long it's been sitting like that. It could have been a while. Whatever they had, there was some kind of, I guess, sugar or something in it. It wasn't like necessarily just water that was spilled. But here we are. These are our chipsets here, and we've already gone this far, and the system has liquid damage, which is great, but I figure while we're here, we might as well take a look what the cell looks like, and we might as well take a look what the RSX looks like. And I'm not even just talking about these heat spreaders here that we can see. I'm talking about the actual chips underneath. And we're actually going to do that now. I'm going to go ahead and pull both of these heat spreaders, and we can take a look at the dies. So delidding CPUs in general now is pretty popular. It's something a lot of people do. Back then, though, we didn't have the tools to do it. We had to kind of make it up as we went because it still wasn't that popular back then to where you could buy a kit online. So we came up with a little method where we actually use exhaust feeler gauges and we kind of grind down the edge to make more of a blade. And because of the angle of it, it actually sits underneath and can actually cut through kind of the silicone on top and the glue and give us an easy pathway to actually get underneath and get to the die. Because if your CPU or if your fan is loud on your PS3, like 90% of the time, it's because of this chip here and what's underneath of this heat spreader. And it's a pain to get into. People don't like doing it. I would even recommend GameStop's people doing this, the refurbishment centers, and I know they don't like to do it because I have talked to 2 people that worked at places that would contract out and work with GameStop. They did not like this. They did not like this part. No one does, and that's why a lot of them would actually send business to me because I would actually be able to do this pretty easily. Now, the plan here, as you can see, I've worked it underneath of the heat spreader. And what we do now is we just slowly work around. I like to heat it up a little beforehand, so it's actually underneath. You can see that. I like to heat the chip up a little bit with just like use a heat gun, a wand, whatever you have with you, the heat wand from like a solder station. And when you do that, it'll actually loosen the glue underneath of it. You don't need to heat it up to like some crazy levels. You should actually still be able to hold it, but just that little bit of heat will actually give you enough play to get in there. And once you're in, it's a quick cut around and you'll be able to get this spreader off. So like I've cut all the way around this edge now, and if I come in from this corner now, because I've cut in, it'll actually fit in pretty easily, like that. And then I can actually start continuing to cut around, and I just got to cut around this edge and then it'll lift right up. All right, so I've gone all the way around. I'm about to finish it right there, very, very carefully. It's all about patience with this as well. It doesn't take too long. Like usually take me a minute or 2 to get one of these off, but it's definitely about patience because you can easily slip and hit something on the board, but this was a very clean pull. And I want you to note kind of how much you can see of that die. You also end up with a very red knuckle because you're pushing a lot. But you can kind of see this die right here. Do you see that window that exists there? This should all be covered, by the way. But you see that window? That's from the dry compound. So because of this, you'll end up with very loud fans on the PlayStation 3. This is the biggest culprit. If you want to quiet your fan, you have to kind of brave this silicone cutting here with a tool from AutoZone used for exhaust. Works very well though. And that is, like I said, the biggest issue. A01s, the 60 gigabyte, the 20 gigabyte, and the 80 gigabyte are all very, very prone to this issue. In fact, I say 99% of the time, if you can get this cell off, replace this compound with like MX4, Arctic Silver, or whatnot, it will actually quiet it dramatically. Now, the other one, of course, is this RSX chip. And I know you're probably curious about this because this is a bit different. It's not just this die here in the middle of the chip. There's actually memory and all kinds of stuff on here. So you might be curious how we get that one off. It feels like it should be harder, right? Well, no, it's actually easier, believe it or not. And what we have to do is you want to use your cell, we call it a cell popper, by the way. You want to use your cell popper, and you want to use a flathead screwdriver. And this is a very quick motion, okay? I'm going to show you. It's going to be kind of hard because I got to be a little bit over here because it's on the edge of the table, and of course it has this large spike on the bottom to mess with me. That's what I mean when I say it was a pain to put on the reflow reball jig because of all of that. Again, I'm going to heat this up and then I'm going to do it one quick motion to show you. It's very easy to break as well compared to this where it's all the way around the edge. So you take your cell popper. This side has no fuses or anything. You take it there to block and make sure that the flathead doesn't come in contact with, there we go. You don't want it to come in contact with the actual chip itself. You put it in there, you put the flathead in, and you twist it. And that's it. It's off. It's that fast. You also end up sometimes with a cut knuckle like that one. Great. And that is our RSX chip. So you can notice those 4 points I was just explaining to you that have kind of the hard glue there. That's actually what's holding it down. It really reminds me more of like cement almost, but you can actually scratch that off with a standard spudger, plastic spudger tool for heating it up, and then you clean this off. This one probably didn't have to be removed. As you can see, the compound is there. Generally on these L01s or like the P01 or K0, you usually don't have to remove this because it's the dies are much cooler because they move to a smaller die set. That's usually not the issue. It's this. This is always the issue. So you're gonna have to work around that. However, if I clean this off, clean it up real nice, put these spreaders back down, I will actually have a very quiet PlayStation 3, especially an L01 model that is already fairly quiet in the first place. It'll be not near silent, but it'll be much quieter. As for the chips, this is the RSX GPU chip. That's our cell. Those 4 modules are actually memory modules around the edges in those corners. Remember, they split them up into 2 pools. So we have 256 here, and then we have 256 over here directly next to the cell, and that's for faster access time there. We have our South Bridge there, and then we also have our HDMI chipset over here and our LAN NIC chip over here. If you get like a lightning strike, sometimes these chips will actually go out, which is very interesting to try to fix because it's not normal to see that. We have our networking and USB chips over here as well, right there. And that's pretty much the majority of the system. Overall, it is a pretty cool system, just a really pain to work on. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it for the PlayStation 3 GameStop Premium Refurbished System. I would consider this one a waste of money as well, because it has liquid damage, and who knows how long it'll actually last with that. I mean, it might actually last for a while, I guess. I mean, it's weird that it works right now. I will admit that. However, they should have done a better job cleaning and refurbishing this system because they were clearly down to the chipsets. They probably should have done something about that cell because this would have been a loud PlayStation 3. This would have been one that sounds like a jet engine over time. They could have done a better job there. I would deem this, because of the liquid damage and the lack of work done to the system, probably a waste of money. Yes, this is a waste of money. It's $100, so it's not even that cheap compared to the 360 that I got for $40. And that one at least didn't have liquid damage, so somehow the PlayStation 3 system ended up being worse when it comes to its refurbishment. But let me know what you guys think about this system down below, whether you were surprised to see that it had liquid damage in a GameStop refurbished, or maybe you're not. And what about the PS3 in general, the teardown process, the chipsets having heat spreaders that are stuck to them and you have to remove in weird, strange ways? Thanks guys for watching. Make sure you give the video a like if you liked it, dislike it if not, and I'll see you in the next video.